Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Creating Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Lexi. I hope you're all having a wonderful Friday. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are enjoying the weather where you are. Hopefully it is beautiful and gorgeous. It is as it is here in Colorado. Our 2 days of Silent Hill weather is gone, and it is beautiful, warm 70s, very sunny. So I hope that you guys are also having wonderful weather wherever you are in the world. With that said, I wanted to jump right into just a couple of housekeeping notes. I wanted to let you all know that in future, unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure how long this process is going to take, so I'm hesitant to set a firm deadline, but I just wanted to let you all know that in future I will be moving these episodes, except for the first two, to other platforms as well. So they will still remain on Spotify and Anchor, so no worries there. But if you are somebody that prefers to listen through Apple Music or any other type of podcasting platform, I will be looking into how to take the podcast there as well. I was talking with my dad yesterday and we were discussing that because he doesn't use Spotify. So, I've been downloading the episodes and sending them to him so he can listen to those as well. Hi, Dad. But we were talking about trying to find some different avenues to add the podcast to. So I will be doing that. Hoping to start working on that this weekend. And then I will keep you all updated regarding where you guys can find the podcast and what platforms those are on. And then when and if I get like an actual ETA, I will let you know that as well. So just a little bit of housekeeping. And today's topic that we are going to be discussing is programming. And if you're not sure what that means, that's okay. We're going to talk about what it is, what it means, and then what you can do when you notice you have some programming. So get comfy, sit back, relax, enjoy yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And let's get into it. Okay, everybody, we are going to get into our breathwork practice. So find a comfortable space. Again, only if it's safe to do so. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. In and out. Last one. All right, everybody. Welcome to our topic for today, programming. So what is that? What the heck does that mean? Programming is any type of belief system, old way of thinking, pattern that you may have. And these come from all sorts of various forms. They can come from societal. They can come from cultural, and they can also come from familial sources. So any number of these sources aids or adds to specific types of programming. Usually these things are picked up when we are younger. A lot of us have familial wounding that occurs when we're young. We also have different types of programming that can come through in various different aspects of life. So some of us, we pick up when we are young kindergartners going to school for the first time. We are middle school to high school age. We're entering different aspects of our lives. And, they can also be cultural as well. So, if you grow up in a society or a culture and that culture says that everybody that you meet, you have to shake their hand and you have to be very respectful. And if you're not, then you are a failure. Or if you don't go to college and you don't get a degree and you don't get a really good job in corporate America, then you are a failure. Any of those things are considered programming. So, what types of programming showing up in your life? What forms can it show up in your life? So, for example, you can have mother or father wounds that may potentially mean or show up for you in your life as you not being good enough, or thinking or believing that you are incapable of love, or that love is not to be one without hardships, that it is conditional. Those are types of wounds that a lot of us have, myself included. We also have scarcity wounds. Those are very prevalent, especially right now in society. A lot of us are noticing these things. And some of these things, too, I'll probably start talking about these and you'll think to yourself, well, I felt that way before. Does that mean that that's an old program for me? Could be. It could, be other things as well, too. But today, Spirit wanted the topic to be about programming. So that's what we are going to discuss. These things that you notice and that you pay attention to in your life, these programs, these old codes that you notice later or now, or you're coming to terms with eventually, these aren't things that you notice them and then poof, it's gone. You never get over programming, but you do learn how to live with it. So, as an aside, as some discussion here, I wanted to share with you all some of the wounding and programming that I have uncovered throughout my journey into remembrance, into owning and respecting who I am as a person. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the main programs that I've noticed is a mother and father wound. Now, these were first kind of brought to light through my work with my mentor, Victoria Pipo. And these mother and father wounds, I kind of mentioned what those tend to look like, but for me, these weren't even things that I was necessarily aware of because I had a very wonderful childhood. Now, granted, my parents are divorced. They divorced when I was 3, so pivotal moment in anybody's developing childhood. But for the most part, I didn't grow up in a strained household. I didn't grow up in an abusive environment. I didn't grow up with, a lot of scarcity. Now granted, when we were very young, my mom was poor and we were very poor, but I didn't notice that. My mom did a very, very wonderful job raising my brother and I, and not really letting us notice or see that we had hard times. Lots of peanut butter and jelly and ramen nights, but to us that was gourmet food. So we never noticed that we were lacking. So thanks, Mom. So in these types of wounding patterns and scenarios, the mother wound, at least for me personally, shows up in a desire to never mess anything up ever, to consistently and constantly be perfect. My strive for perfectionism in all aspects of my life stems from my mother wound. It's actually a generational mother wound as well. So there's that. Things like if I chose to go to a party and I knew that maybe it wasn't the best idea because maybe I was underage or I had crew in the morning, I was supposed to be rowing, or, none of the parents were home and it seemed like it was a really bad idea. A lot of the things that used to play in my mind was, well, you can't go do that. And not, oh, you can't go do that because it's a bad idea for all of these reasons. It was, well, you can't go do that because, your mom wouldn't like you doing that. And then it was, okay, well, it's a bad idea because the parents aren't home. Somebody could call the cops. Uh, you know, you're underage. You have responsibilities. You need to act like an adult. So those are some of the ways that, at least for me personally, my mother wound comes through. And for my father wound, as I'm sure a lot of you can probably imagine, having said that my parents split when I was 3, we stayed a lot with my mom, and we only saw my dad occasionally, at least in my child brain. That's how it seemed. So for me, until very recently, it looked like, love is not unconditional. It always has conditions. And somebody is going to leave you eventually. So here's an abandonment wound for you. And you have to beg and plead with people to stay with you. So in relationships, feeling like I was never good enough, feeling like there was always something that was going to make somebody leave me because I'm not worthy of love. Real heavy shit today. So I hope you're I hope you're ready for this conversation, everybody. But again, this is what Spirit wanted us to talk about. So that's what we're talking about today. So the ways that I started noticing these wounding programs that I had, again, initially was brought to light through my work with Victoria, but after, kind of recognizing these patterns and these programs that I had, I started to name the feelings and sensations that I would feel. So then I could actually identify what emotions and what energy was tied to those different feelings. And after doing those, then recoding and reworking the way that I saw myself and the understanding that I had of the world. Because a lot of these programs are that way. They are heavily rooted in pretty much every aspect of our lives, and they are that way for a reason. So one of the main things that I did for these 2 wounds in particular was actually writing a letter to my inner child and writing a letter to my mother and my father from the perspective of a little kid and going through the letter until I was an adult, as I am now. So that's just one way that we can work on these types of woundings and programs. And I by no means am suggesting that everybody go out and do this today. But, if you're noticing some similarities and some patterns, maybe some things that sound familiar for you, I'd highly recommend looking into some of these things. I'm not the end all be all, obviously, so please do your research. And as always, if anybody has any questions on this information, this topic, let me know. One of the other types of programs that I've noticed within my own life is the sisterhood or the witch wound. So I mentioned with some of the other wounds that I have and the other programs that I have, specifically abandonment. When I was younger, I was somebody that I made friends very easily. I typically was able to kind of relate to all sorts of people, and typically found myself with a large friend group of all different types of people. And when I was younger, there would be some instances where somebody would be angry, and not even necessarily angry with me, but maybe they were having a bad day, or who knows, like we were kids, like maybe they didn't get what they wanted for lunch or something like that. And they were mad about it. But anyway, I always used to interpret that as they were mad at me for something. And so I used to actually ask people, why do you like me? Why are we friends? Things like that, which, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, is pretty annoying, especially as a little kid. Like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about my feelings. I don't want to talk about this. I just want to go, play on the playground or something. So, that translates for me, at least, into the sisterhood wound. So when I was a little bit older, I think I mentioned either in the second or third episode of this podcast, I had a little bit of trauma that occurred when I was, an adolescent, a teenager, as most of us do, right? And from that, I developed a very severe sisterhood wounding program that I started cutting myself off from people. I stopped being the overly ambitiously friendly person that I used to be. I stopped going up to people and introducing myself and asking them, hey, what's your story? Or, hey, can we be friends? You want to go play? You want to go to the movies? Like, you want to go hang out? I stopped doing those things because I felt that I'd been betrayed by people that I had considered friends. I had considered close friends. And because of that, I thought to myself, well, it's because there's something wrong with you. So therefore, you just shouldn't ever reach out to people. You just shouldn't ever let people see you. You just got to be by yourself. And through different, I guess, learnings, investigations, different things that I've been learning, I've come to realize too that the sisterhood wound and program is very closely tied with the witch wounding. So if anybody's heard of that before, witch wounding is typically referred to in most of our past lives. At some point, we have been witches. Because again, like we talked about yesterday, we are all energetic beings. And because we're all energetic beings, we all have the ability to manipulate and use energy. And as we all know, I don't need to give anybody a history lesson, but especially in America and the puritanical Western world, we have a very long-standing history of persecuting our own when we don't understand them. So for that, it's something that I'm very grateful for incarnating in this lifetime where technology is a thing and witches are no longer feared, but more so revered. Because I know that I've had multiple past life traumas where I was a witch and people either ratted me out or betrayed me or, something. And it led to, uh, you know, either my persecution or, execution, something like that. So the sisterhood and the witch wound are very closely tied together. And it's something that I have noticed quite a few females in my life also suffer from as well. So if this sounds like it's you, take a look into it. Again, something that I did to notice this was just honor and start working with. I don't find myself closed off from people as much as I used to be. As you guys know, I'm still working on this, but I find it a lot easier to be my, authentic self with people in relationships because I'm not so worried about them finding out too much information about me and then they can use it against me later or, betraying me when they get upset or angry or something like that. So those are some of the things that I have been doing to try and work with that pattern and programming. One of the other big ones that I suffered from is the too much wound or program. I don't really know what type of name this has, to be honest, but the thing that I call it is the too much program. Owning our own energies. So owning the fact that I have very loud, obnoxious laugh. When, it's like full belly laughter. Everybody knows that I'm in a room because I sound like a brain donkey sometimes, but hey, I'm learning to love it. Owning the fact that when I find passion in something, I dive into it wholeheartedly. And anybody that asks, buddy, you just signed up for a full-on TED Talk, and I am going to talk your ear off for the next 5 hours about whatever topic this is. Being the person that growing up I was always told, you're obnoxious. Tone it down. you're too much. But I don't even know what that means anymore. But, when you're a teenager and you're trying to make friends and you're trying to figure out who you are and you're trying to find your way in the world, that is a crushing blow to hear from somebody else that you're obnoxious or you're annoying or you're too much. So some of these things that I have noticed and recognized and the ways that I'm working on this is by owning the fact that I do have a very obnoxious laugh, but I love it because at least everybody knows that I find it funny. There's no faking that laugh. I, own and honor the fact that I am wildly passionate about lots and lots and lots of different things. And those individuals that feel that I'm too much, usually it's more of a reflection on them and less so a reflection on me. And that's what's helped a lot with this type of programming. And the last major program that I've noticed in my life personally is scarcity. This is something that I'm working through right now, currently. It's something that I've had many sage mentors and wisdom keepers talk to me about and share their knowledge and expertise with. But again, it's something that I think all of us experience. I hesitate to say struggle with, but experience I think is a more appropriate term for that. The feeling of I don't have enough. I'm never going to have enough. I'm not good enough for what I want. I don't have enough money in the bank account. I don't have this car. I don't have this particular job at work. I don't have this house. I don't have this partner. I don't have, any type of thing. So for me, again, I'm still working on this one as I am with all of them, but the others I feel that I've more or less, again, mastered is not the right word, but that's what's coming to mind. More or less mastered working with. There you go. That's what we'll say. The scarcity, it's so in my face right now that I'm not gonna lie, it's very difficult to work with because I'm also coming from corporate America with a steady paycheck where I really didn't have to worry about money or worry about material things for 6.5 years. And now I'm in a position where I feel like I have to worry about these things. But I'm coming to realize that I don't need to worry about these things because the universe provides everything. Anything and everything that you want, whatever your wildest desires are, it's yours, it's already yours. And leaning into the energetics of knowing that everything is yours, that's where the real secret sauce is. So, all of this said, how can you recognize a program within your own life? I think the easiest way to recognize these things is when something happens, something occurs. Somebody says, "Oh man, you're so obnoxious. You're too much." If it feels like it doesn't resonate with you, if it feels like, well, I don't feel like I'm too much. I feel like I'm just enough. I feel like I'm just right. Maybe that's a program. If it feels like it didn't come from your soul, if it doesn't feel like it fits, chances are you're probably looking at a program. And again, the best advice that I can give when you notice a program is to honor it. Recognize it, honor it, acknowledge it. Don't just try and ignore it. Because I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is trying to ignore something. That's what I was doing with scarcity before. If I just ignore it, it'll go away. Instead, embracing the hurt, the anger, the frustration, the rage, whatever the emotions are that accompany that program, taking a real hard look at that and asking yourself why you feel this way, why you feel like you have this program in your life, and start working with it. This is really honestly just a very brief taste. as with all of these topics, I feel we have the propensity to spiral on out of here. But as with all things, there is so much more that we could talk about. So if this is something that interests you guys, if you would like me to continue talking about this topic, please let me know. This is the topic that Spirit wanted us to discuss today, so I hope that you found something useful out of this. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Thank yourselves for being here. Thank yourselves for joining. Thank you for taking the time. And remember, if you would like to be included in a future episode, you're listening on the Anchor or Spotify platforms, please include a voice note as well, or send any comments, questions, thoughts, or potential future topics to our social media channels. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I hope that you guys are able to get out and enjoy the sunshine, go touch some grass, go enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope that it is beautiful and magnificent for all of you. With that, namaste. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I hope you enjoyed. You can find me on Instagram. My profile name is Montoya Lex. It's MontoyaLex. It's my Instagram profile. And you can also send me any comments, feedback, suggestions, questions, or topics that you would like me to cover at creatingconsciousnessllc@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day.